Welcome to the Private Property Podcast, where we provide you with valuable knowledge and information on all things property related. Whether you're a first time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or just looking for some expert advice, we've got you covered. So tune in to the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. for tips, insights, and all expert advice on your burning property related questions, because we cover all topics related to property. That's because this is brought to you by Private Property. Remember, you can find your new home on privateproperty.co.za. Welcome to the Private Property Podcast. On tonight's episode, we'll be unpacking some useful tips that help you pay off your property debt. And joining me in the studio to chat about this interesting topic is someone who needs no introduction. The last time he was here, he spoke to us about how you can start your own property portfolio using your current salary. Yes, that's right. Of course, I'm talking about Percy Singo. But before we dive into this conversation, remember to comment below and share your thoughts about today's show. You can also join in on the conversation by using the hashtag #FindYourNewHome on privateproperty.co.za and hashtag the Private Property Podcast on all social media. We'll be keeping an eye out on your posts, and who knows, we might even feature some of your comments on our next week's show, because we value your opinions and because this is the Private Property Podcast, where we provide you with valuable information on all things property related. Welcome, Percy. I'm your guest host, Marie. Nice to see you again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's always exciting being back here.
You recently posted on your socials that you're on a mission to pay all your debts this year, okay? So what inspired it, and how are you going to go on about it?
Yeah, there was two reasons why I decided to do this. One of the reasons was I was just looking at my finances, which is very important. I feel like everybody should do it, to look at your finances, to say, what can I do so that I can improve my finances? So I decided to say, no, I want to change some things in my finances. And one of the things that I realized was that I'm now having a lot of debt on my portfolio. So I wanted to offload some of that. But when I look at both of my debts, I can see that some are good debts and some are bad debts. So I focus mainly on those bad debts to say, can I be able to reduce it? For example, the bad debt, I realized that I'm paying something like 15,000, which means if I can drop that, I can be able to even increase my savings, which will help me to go more into the property investment or to save even more.
And yes, I mean, with this economy, I mean, it's all about saving. Saving is important.
Yes.
And okay, so first of all, I have 5 tricks. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 tricks on how our viewers can reduce their monthly installments. Okay, so the first one is give a bigger deposit. Okay, and then, so can you give me a little bit? Can you give me a little bit more?
If we're talking about paying deposit, I feel like it's an important thing that one has to do, because it doesn't necessarily help you with the years of repayment, but it can make you to pay less amount monthly.
Yeah.
For example, if you need a house for 1 million and then you are supposed to be paying something like 10,000 a month, since the interest rate is around 11.25. So if you go there, you say, I'm coming there with 300,000 deposit. Instead of you getting 1 million, you are getting 700,000, which means even the repayment will be less. You'll be paying something like 7,000 per month, which gives you that 3,000 break, which is needed, especially now with all these interest rates going up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to have that space so that even if it's going up, you don't have to think about selling that property.
Negotiate a lower interest rate.
Yes, that one is also important, negotiating a lower interest, because I feel like in every debt, the first thing that must come to your mind is interest. How much am I going to pay? Because the interest determines how much you're going to pay.
Yeah.
So the lower the interest, the lower you're going to pay. So it's very important to be below or somewhere close to the prime lending rate if it's a property.
Yeah.
So it's very important to negotiate that interest. But negotiating doesn't stop when you buy, because a lot of people are thinking only when you buy, that's when you can negotiate for interest rate, which it's also a good platform to negotiate, because all the banks, they want to finance you. Then you can get to see which one is financing me lower, and then can I be able to even negotiate it even lower. And then again, once you already have a property, you can still go to another bank. Let's say bank A gave you a loan. You can go to bank B and say, I'm having a loan with bank A, which the interest is 10%. Can you be able to move it down if I move the loan to you guys?
Yeah.
They can be able to beat your current bank, or you can just use that, whatever they're going to give you to the bank A, to say bank B is willing to give me lower interest if I move my loan to them. Can you guys beat this one? So you can still negotiate interest anytime. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to negotiate it in the beginning of the loan.
Yeah. So you see, having good negotiation skills is very important, huh?
Yes.
To pay extra each month. So what could you tell us about this tip?
Yeah, this one, it's one of the important ones.
Yeah.
Because it reduces the years which you are going to pay for that loan.
Yeah.
It doesn't reduce the amount. This one just reduces the years, because you are paying extra than what was stipulated, which is very important. I feel like for every loan, if you want to finish it early, you just have to pay extra. I've done some calculations before to say, if you buy a house of 500,000 and then you just add 1,000 above that, instead of you paying for that house for 20 years, you'll be able to finish it in 15 years, which you would have saved yourself 5 years. And 5 years, it's a long time of paying for a debt.
To pay in unbudgeted extra, what about that? Like, how can our viewers make sure that they can just pay extra each time?
Yeah, I also like that, because there's a lot of time where we receive money which is unexpected.
Yes.
There are things like bonus. I mean, bonus is not part of your expenses. It's money which is outside your expenses.
True.
So you can be able to get it and say, I'm going to pay off this debt.
Yeah.
Some companies, they even allow you to sell leave days. So when you sell leave days, it's money that you don't expect. You can just take all that money and put it into the debt in order to reduce the number of years and then to save yourself on interest. And then again, there's also other things like your SARS, when you submit your returns.
Yes.
When they give you that money back, it's not money that is part of your expenses. So there's a lot of those things that you can use in order to pay extra on your debts so that you can finish them early. And then you would have saved yourself on a lot of money with regards to interest.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So another tip, right? Don't December this year. Keep that bonus to pay off your debt. To beat the interest calculation. So tell us more about this one. This one might be a bit tricky because it's a bit, technical.
It's a bit tricky, but what I can say, like, for example, I had a loan this year, which the bad debt for me, it was around 485,000 rand.
Okay.
And then one of the loan was 200,000 rand, which I just paid off this month. And then I realized that I've just had that loan for 8 years, but for 8 months, but I was supposed to have that loan up until 2028.
Yes.
Which means I was going to pay more than 400,000 on that loan if I waited for 2018 to come.
Yes.
But now, because I paid it up in 8 months, I paid something like 238,000, which is just 38,000 above the loan. So the sooner you pay it, you save a lot in the money that you are going to spend on the interest. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you've touched this topic before, but for the first-time viewers out there, can you please tell us why it's so important for homeowners to try and pay off their home loan sooner rather than later?
Yeah, it will be about the interest, because the longer you are paying for it, the higher the interest. So you are trying to pay off this loan as quick as possible so that you don't incur the interest.
Yeah.
So, for example, a house of 500,000, you can end up paying something like 1.4 million
Yes.
if you had to pay it in 20 years.
Yes.
But if you go with the way I did it, where I paid my house in 3 years, you find that I only spend around 700,000. So you have saved yourself a lot of money that you were going to spend. So the sooner you pay the debt, the lower repayment you have used. So it's like you have saved yourself money.
Yeah.
So it's very important for us to pay off those debts, not just the house, but even for cars and other things. It's the same principle to say, if you want to save yourself or to save money for yourself, it's better to pay it as soon as possible. I mean, if the bank says you have to pay this house, you have to pay 5,000, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the amount you have to pay, because they are focusing, they are a business as well. So they have to make profit. So you have to come up with your ways to say, how can I cut down on the repayment of that interest?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the more you pay and the faster you're done with that loan. And well done on paying off a home in 3 years. That is quite something. Well done. Okay. What about those of us who are financially stretched, with maxed out credit cards and multiple personal loans to account for? What would be the best plan of action for this type of situation?
Yes, the way I look at it, like for myself this year, I had a lot of different debts. But now I had to look at which one am I paying more. Then I focus mainly on that one first.
Yeah.
Like the one that I paid, like the whole debt that I'm paying, it's around 15,000, the bad debt.
Yes.
But I focused only on this 200,000, which was taking something like 7,000 monthly. So I focused on it because it's the higher interest, which means I'm paying more on it. So I focus mainly on those, so that the other ones, you find one debt I'm paying 1.5, which is not a lot. I can come to those later on.
Yes.
So that's how I look at it in terms of which debt should I start with.
Okay.
I will look at the one with the higher interest, and then I focus on that first. Yeah.
Okay, so if I understood correctly, you would say focus on one credit card. Is that right? Or focus on one big debt?
Yes. Remember, I was still paying the other debts, but I'm just paying the bare minimum.
Okay.
What is stipulated to say you have to pay this amount.
Yes.
But on this one loan, I said, no, I'm diverting all my savings into this debt so that I can finish it in a short period of time.
Yes.
And then after that, I will target another one. But for me to see which one must I start with, I had to look at the interest to say which one is more expensive in those ones, so that I can release or offload the pressure from up going down. Yeah.
Okay. All right. For homeowners who are considering using their bond equity to pay off their home loan, is this a good idea? Yes. Why? And no. Why? Why? Like, what is your opinion on this?
My opinion on this one is like, for me, it doesn't make sense to say to use your bond equity to pay off a home loan. I would rather use the bond equity to build or to extend that house so that it can generate more money.
Yes.
And then I can use that money, because a debt is not really a problem if it can be able to service itself.
Yes.
And then it leaves you with profit.
Absolutely.
So for me, when I say I'm talking about debts, the 15,000 that I'm paying on debts, it's only just for bad debt. I have other debts which I can see that these debts, I don't have to worry about them because they are able to afford themselves. I mean, it's like if I take a debt, for example, for R1 million, and then I'm expected to pay 10,000 a month.
Yeah.
But that R1 million is making, for example, 40,000 rand. It means it will be easy for me to take 10,000 from the 40,000 and pay the debt and still remain with 30,000 profit.
Yes.
Which that 30,000 profit, I can use it to invest even further instead of me trying to settle it, because it's able to service itself. So you have to check again, Ori, what type of a debt am I having? Because there are those good debts which are putting you in an advantage. And then there are those bad debts, which a lot of people find themselves in those bad debts where you are unable to save, and then you are also unable to invest in properties and other investment because these debts are holding you back in a way that you don't have any money anymore to do anything. That's why when you hear people saying, now I'm saving this amount, you feel like they're lying or it's not possible because all these debts are holding you back. So I'm focusing on those debts which I feel like they are holding me back in order for me to grow.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, just to sum up what you said, using a bond equity is not it. It's not the
best idea for using it to settle a house. I can use it for other things, but not to settle a house.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Got you. Okay. So, what are some of the most common mistakes people do when it comes to dealing with debt or using their debt to create additional revenue streams? Like what mistakes do people usually do?
I feel like a lot of time the mistake is to use debt for liabilities. And then you find those person is having a lot of liabilities on a debt.
Yes.
And then you reach a place where you are unable to even achieve other things financially because you are overcommitted.
Okay.
So that's one of the main mistake that people, whenever they go to take loan, it's like they're taking it for liability. But I feel like it should be balanced. We are not saying you must not have liabilities, but also have those debts that are generating money so that when you buy liabilities, you are able to afford them with ease.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Our last question for tonight is, what advice would you give to homeowners looking to reduce the debt arising from their property portfolio?
Yes. I think, yes, there is those debts which come from property portfolio, but most of the time they can be avoided by making sure that when you go to property, you understand what you are doing, because you don't just hear somebody saying, I'm investing in property, and then you go and invest in property. You have to do a research of your own to say, is this strategy that I'm going to implement going to make money?
Yes.
Because the moment you'll complain about the debt coming from property, I feel like there will be something that you have done wrong in that property strategy. But if you do property in the right strategy, then the debt will be able to afford itself, and then you won't have to worry because you'll have that ability to breathe. You have enough funds coming in, or capital cash flow.
Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, so it's all about using the right strategies. Okay,
yes.
Thank you so much for your time, Percy. We sincerely appreciate your insights and contribution on this topic. I mean, debt is a huge issue in South Africa or in the world overall. If you're looking to reduce your debt or wipe out your property debt, I hope that we've given you some food for thought. For more information, you can click on the link below or in the description. Percy, thanks again for joining us. Okay, so that's all we have for tonight in terms of dealing with your debt. Join us again next time when we'll be talking about everything property related right here on the Private Property Podcast.